for like who's for sure definitely leaving at this point. There's obviously some people who might leave early to go into the draft as well. You're thinking ZTF. I mean, that one's super unlikely, but there's always a really tiny chance for him.
Well,
Slightly more likely.
ZTF can't actually yet because he hasn't had eligibility, but he probably wishes he had coming off of his great year.
Oh, didn't know that fun fact. Thank you so much. So take him off that list. There's two people then I think that might leave the team early to head into the draft. Tight end Cade Otton and Jackson Kirkland on O-line. I mean, both of those guys have had fantastic seasons and games and statistics leading up to this year, including this year alone. Cade Otton especially. I think Cade Otton, though, could sneak in an extra year of both eligibility and stats to play with, especially since the 2019 season. He was certainly overshadowed, being kind of the hard work, no praise, doing all of the blocking, not picking up many receptions. But after that, I mean, I feel like we're pretty much good. We have 3 returners who opted out of the season due to COVID who will be coming back. And then we have a bunch of people who are staying. And like the original title for this segment was going to be shoes like left unfilled, like who's going to step up and do this stuff. And then I was looking through returners and I was like,
Joseph is frozen for a bit. So yeah, talking about just adding on to what he was just mentioning. Oh, you're back.
That was it. I mean, I finished.
Well, so yeah, a lot of people will probably be returning for next year. I think that was what you were kind of leading into with a lot of these guys coming back, besides, of course, the corners in Molden, Taylor, and then Otton probably will be leaving. Don't know yet, but looking at the tight end depth behind him, I think UW set up nicely to fill his shoes. With in the 2020 recruiting class, they had 2 4-star tight ends in Mark Redmond and Jack Yari. Redmond played minimally all year long, but he did get in a few snaps. Well, Jack Yari, I don't think played at all, but he was a very late addition as he switched over from USC to UW in an odd recruiting class, I suppose you could say, odd way. And then they, of course, still have Jack Westover, who kind of provided that fullback aspect. They used him at a lot all year, so he'll be back next year. And then Devin Culp, who played a bit. He actually did his first catch in college football last year as a junior. He had 1 catch. So he'll come back. So the tight end position, if Otton decides to leave, which I think he will, I think it's in his best interest. He had kind of a solid year. I think his draft stock's high enough to where he'll feel comfortable leaving. But the UW's kind of been known for these tight ends they've been producing recently into the NFL. So they still have that great depth behind on to replace him. And then Jackson Kirkland, you mentioned him possibly leaving, of course. And I think he leaves as well. But again, the UW's offensive line is extremely deep. They mentioned the offensive line coach talked about at the start of the year how far these true freshmen have come and how far along they are. Mm-hmm. I think Kirkland said they were like miles ahead or something of where he was when he was a freshman. Yet none of the true freshmen actually are on the 10 deep depth chart, just to signify how deep this offensive line group truly is. I look at someone to replace Jackson Kirkland at left tackles, maybe a Troy Fatanu, or maybe even a Nate Kalepo, who's a real big guy. Maybe slide him out if he slims down. He's 6'6", 330 pounds. He'd be a great left tackle, I feel. So overall, I think the Huskies are in a great position just to keep kind of the young guys coming up and keep mentoring them, keep training, and just keep the continuity between this team and next year's team. I mean, a big step in that is actually Luke Wattenberg, the senior center. He decided to stay for another year. So I think that's going to be big for this offensive line as a group.
Yeah, and I mean, there's just heading